Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. I'm very excited for today's guest. He is the founder of Local SEO Search, and he helps small, medium-sized businesses to, dominate their niche and dominate Google. So I'm very excited to be talking to him. His name is John Vuong. Hey, John, are you ready to rock?
Yes, I am. Thanks a lot for having me, Tim.
That's awesome. Yes, I'm excited to talk to you because this is a very, very important industry, I believe. So now we always start on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that you can inspire us with.
Yeah, so maybe right at the beginning, I started this agency 8 years ago. And going into this SEO business, I had no clue. I had no technical background, actually. Before I started, I was actually doing advertising sales for 10 years. But while working, I uncovered that there was a huge shift in user behavior. Business owners were frustrated with the ROI in terms of ad spend in traditional media. And I was working at Yellow Pages for 5 years. So at that time, these business owners were just frustrated, spending so much, not getting good ROI, but people's behavior was shifting, right? They were moving towards digital, and I wanted to help them more than anything. So I was determined to go out there, figure out. I knew there was a need, there was an opportunity there, and no one was really filling that gap here in the GTA Toronto area and throughout Canada. So I wanted to be that kind of trusted source. So that's how I started. I didn't have a laptop, actually. I sold my first client on a cell phone with an idea and I got paid, right? Like people actually gave me 6 months deposit right there. So I knew there was an opportunity, and that's my success. Like just going out there, uncovering there's a need in the marketplace and filling that gap with a solution that people are willing to pay for. And then I had to figure out to build a team and figure out how to do it. So that's my success.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and definitely with search with SEO, that seems to be something that people do want and need. It's just a matter of finding the right solution that's going to fit their budgets and all that stuff. And but now, as we're kind of achieving some success in our businesses, sometimes we hit some bad notes along the way as well. And I wanted to see if you had any type of, maybe something that we can avoid, or some bad note or mistake that you made, and and even, if we have no choice but to hit it, how can we recover from it?
Yeah, definitely. It's like early days in your business, entrepreneur journey. Um, you're you're trying to figure out what you're doing. Like a lot of people are doing it by themselves, solo. There's so much going on. Like first you got to sell, then you got to market, then you got to build a site, then you got to figure out that product and service. What's the market fit? What's the framework, system, process, people, accounting, bookkeeping, all these things. Maybe it is a product, and then you got to figure out like distribution. So at that pain point at the beginning was, what should you really focus on? And for me, I was lucky to be in sales to get revenue. I just didn't know how to do it, right? So I hired really poorly based on skill set, not a good fit. So therefore, I had struggles at the beginning because I didn't have people that I could trust. Even though they were great, people at their skill, they weren't fit in terms of personality and my values. So I would say really focus on your bigger vision, your goal. Focus on the core values and make sure everyone is in alignment with what your vision looks like right at the onset. So put together some sort of goals, right? 3, 6 months, a year, 3 or 5 year goals. Put together not just revenue targets, but like what do you want to see your company look like? What do you want to be known as in the industry? Who do you want to go after? Who's that avatar that you want to go after? So all these things are important in terms of like growing a business. But at the beginning, I was definitely hiring wrong. I made so many mistakes, and I still make mistakes today. It's just not as magnified. It's not as huge in the scope that it's gonna really tarnish the brand or the company.
Right. Okay. So what I'm hearing is you're talking a lot about like company culture, like just
Yeah.
hiring people that are going to fit in with
Yeah.
your company, not just do they have the skills to get the job done, right? So what is it that happened that you realized what your mistake was?
Yeah, so because I was not really educated in the SEO field, right? So I was starting to ingest a lot of content, blogs, audio, going to conferences, reading, joining communities to understand what I didn't know. I knew how to sell, right? Because I basically that's my background, but I just didn't know what was the process behind it. So I was kind of selling a dream, not knowing what was actually had to happen in order to get that dream to become uh, reality. So I had to make sure there's an alignment between the two, right? And understand the process along the way. So for me, it was more like understanding what I was selling. Like
Yeah.
that was my biggest challenge. And a lot of people are like, as a sales rep, I sold a lot over the years and I understood the product that I was selling. But when you're starting your own business, you're trying to just scrape by and survive, right? You're out there just trying to make sure you could pay your bills. So
Mm.
that's what I did. I bootstrapped to then get revenue, but I made a lot of mistakes, taking on the wrong clients, hiring the wrong people, saying a lot of wrong things early days. Um, but that's how you grow and evolve, right? And you make mistakes. Hopefully it doesn't make a huge dent in impact in your goals. But yeah, that's a lot of struggles.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting when you say that. You've got a very unique story from a lot of the guests that have been on the show. A lot of the guests that have been on the show have some sort of skill, and then they create a business out of that skill. What you had is you had a need, you had a market that you wanted to attach to, and then you had to go find the people who had the skill to be able to do what it was that you were trying to accomplish, right?
Exactly. But I knew there was a business behind it, right?
Yeah.
Because people are willing to pay for a need, right? And it's not rocket science. People are struggling. There's a why. There's a problem that people want fixed. Let it be a plumbing, roofing, windows, dentist, whatever. There's a lot of different trades and services people want. They're just willing to pay for expertise, right? And if you're able to have a market share, a small percentage of businesses or humans or users that are willing to pay for a product and service, you have a business.
Yeah, yeah. So then, okay, let's get into it a little bit more then. Now, this particular thing that you saw was called SEO. So maybe just quickly in your words, what is SEO so that
Yeah,
people who don't know can understand it.
yeah, definitely. So search engine optimization, what it is if you're on Google, you type in a keyword. Typically what happens is, let's say a dentist in Toronto, because I'm located in Toronto. Usually at the top, there's a ads where you're paying to play. Usually business owners who are appearing in the ad section, every time a user clicks on it, that business owner is charged a fixed amount per click.
Yeah.
Let it be $5, $10, 20, 100, whatever it may be. Then below there is the map, which is usually the Google 3-pack. And underneath there is organic listing. So I help businesses rank on the map and below the map, which are more natural appearing.
Mhm.
And majority of the users don't like clicking on the ads unless it's an emergency. They want to be in control of their search journey. And what you need to understand, and maybe you are the same, you avoid the ads. And the reason you do that is you want to be in control. And you believe Google is doing their best job to match your search query, which is they are storing all the cookies and history and cache and your whole life in terms of what you've been searching
Mhm.
to provide you the best results for you personalized. So you as a user of Google, when you type in dentist Toronto, you believe Google has done their best job to match your search with the best businesses that match your search, right? So what I try to do is get these businesses to appear and become more visible, which is become more of a thought leader or authoritative figure in these customers who are seeking out their service or product.
Right, right. And that fits in really well with one of the topics that we often talk about, which is keeping the which is getting fans, which is getting people to see your business. Which so now what you're talking about is that you have a business that will allow people to find you through search engines. Then.
That's correct. I mean, I learned from early days doing a lot of advertising sales. There's traditional advertising sales,
Mm-hmm.
radio, television, trade shows, magazines, billboards, direct mail, and then online digital, right? And a lot of the digital replaced a lot of the traditional, right? Like
Yep.
radio has been replaced with podcasts.
Yep.
TV is YouTube now,
Yep.
and then you look at the banner ads, it's like magazines or Instagram is magazine. So if you understand traditional advertising and now digital, it's like understanding yellow pages. It was replaced by pretty much SEO, right? Like Google.
Yep.
So what I've kind of really realized is Google doing exactly what Yellow Pages did 100 years ago, but now magnified to become more the global leader of when anyone is seeking any kind of information throughout the entire buyer journey, from informational gathering, navigational, transactional to loyalty, right? And then throughout there, there's so many different queries people are typing in. So understanding and owning the entire buyer journey will allow you to be more visible throughout the journey. And that's what I try to uncover for a lot of business owners that don't understand how much of a potential your website can generate inbound leads for a business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now, okay, so what you mentioned earlier that when someone Googles something, there's some sponsored links at the top, or what do they call it? Yeah, I think it's sponsored.
Yeah.
Now, these are things that people pay for, right?
That's correct.
And so what you're saying is that you're not focused on people paying for ads. You're focused on the organic searches below it, right? The ones that, so nobody's paying for any ads if they're doing SEO properly. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. So SEO is more the organic, natural listing.
Okay, so now why wouldn't somebody just pay for an ad?
Because as a user, what you want to understand is your potential customers who are seeking out the product and service are not clicking on ads. They're clicking below the ads. So the missed opportunity that you believe, like a lot of people will pay per ad because they can visibly see the ad. What happens behind the scenes is if you're doing it correctly, you're building, authority, thought leadership, expertise. A lot of people don't understand the the entire process of what it takes to become more of a leader, right? An authoritative figure. And it's more time. It takes a lot more time to build up, just like any business. While working at Yellow Pages, all these businesses understood how to run a really good sized business, took care of the customers, understood the market fit, understood the competitive analysis, value, unique selling proposition, all that stuff. Now you fast forward to now the internet, digital age, people believe that a business can be run and started within 3 months, 6 months, a year, and you could make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. In reality, foundationally, before the digital world, it took years to build up, and learn how to run a business.
Totally.
And so people are forgetting the foundations of running a business still. They think that a lot of people will just pay for ads, right? And get in front of people who are actively seeking out a product and service. If you think about paid ads, it's very similar to magazines or newspaper ads, where yes, you're there if someone's actually picking up the newspaper or flyer and magazine, right? And then if they're picking it up, they have to be watching, and there has to be a compelling argument to call to action or offer or something that catches their attention. Their buying intent has to be there at that specific time. Similar to radio, similar to TV, but it's like digital ads, like social media. People are there scrolling down and you're interrupting them with an ad, with a capture and headline and graphic and clickbait or whatever it is. The challenge is, how high is it converting? What don't you want people to be in control of their search and wanting to need something? So the people who are seeking out a lead on search way farther down the buying cycle in terms of the journey. They're not early stages because you're not attracting them. People who are seeking out a keyword is already intent focused on actually really close to the end phase. They're probably narrowing it down to 2 or 3 other vendors. Maybe it's just price shopping. They're looking for top or best companies. So if you can attract those ideal customers who are actively in play today, wouldn't you want to invest more of your dollars in that versus the paid portion of sponsored ads?
Yeah, yeah, no. Well, I know when I look at my own, I guess what I do when I go and Google something. So if I Google something, I do notice that there's a few sponsored ads at the top. But now, I mean, maybe I'm more computer savvy because I know that those people just pay for it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. Maybe they are. I mean, if they've got the money to pay for an ad, then they probably are a decent business. But are they the best at what they do? Because they're kind of cheating. They're just paying a few bucks, getting themselves at the top of it. But so I will look at the first few at least the first page of Google at the organic search hits, because I know that those people are, in business for a long time. They've got good authority. So yeah, I see the distinguishing points between those two. But now, like, as I'm talking to guests on the show, I always find sort of like there's kind of the people who are looking to create organic leads tend to go out there and join communities and create a name for themselves by actually like physically going out there and doing these things, right? So now what that means though is that that's going to be something that is going to have to consistently happen all the time. So if someone invests in an SEO strategy and gets themselves some, on the front page of Google, do they stay there? Or, is this something that will, they put in some investment up front and then it continues to pay in the back end? Or is this something that they'll have to keep on doing just like if they were doing it in person?
Yeah, so with SEO, it's not a one-time fit all. It's not like a website design, which is a one-time fee, unless there's a recurring maintenance, right? So with SEO, there's algo changes with Google. There's always updates. They're trying to get the best user experience all the time. So they're trying to get rid of all the cheaters and black hat people that are trying to trick the system. And then yourself, within your industry, let it be a product, service, community, local, national keywords that you're trying to target, there's always competitors competing amongst each other, right? So there's internal challenges as well as external stuff that Google is always trying to figure it out. So my thought on that is ongoing is always the best because it allows you to be more in tune with what's going on. Because there's always changes. And with this digital landscape, you can't be stagnant. You can't just be doing one thing. We're all about the multimedia channel approach, right? You can't just do paid ads and stop there. You have to have multi-touch points, right? It could be an email follow-up sequence. It could be funnels. It could be paid ads. It could be organic ads. It could be YouTube podcasts. There's so many different channels because you don't know what your ideal customers are consuming at the time of when they're ready to buy, or even throughout the entire journey. So you got to hit them with as much consistency of the product and service that they're seeking out so that maybe it triggers them to be aware of who you are.
Okay, so if I'm hearing it correctly, then the major benefit to coming up with a good SEO strategy as opposed to a social media strategy, I suppose, or a paid ad strategy would be the quality of the lead that comes in, because these are people that are actually literally looking for you right now. It's not you going out there and trying to convince people, right?
Yes, I think the biggest thing that you have to understand with SEO is you're gonna cultivate your website becomes a lead magnet of inbound leads of your ideal type avatar persona of your customers, if done right. If everything's done right, that's what you're gonna get. But there's a lot of people that will promise the world or do things and other things that shouldn't be done. So my thing is try to cultivate and look for a good relationship, agency or freelance or in-house. Find people that actually have a good solid track record,
Yeah.
someone that you can trust to really amplify your brand because it's an extension to your business, whoever's working on your back end.
Okay. So then how do we do it right? Like, I mean, you mentioned earlier that there's, cheaters out there. Like, is that what we're is that what we're talking about? Are we trying to figure out what the best, you know, skill is out there or a thing that Google's looking for at the time? Or is there like more fundamentals on how to do this right?
Yeah, fundamentally, I would say you have to be running a really good business, right? You have to know how to run a business and you have to know who your ideal avatar is. Once you determine who that is, then we could do more of a due diligence of who your major competitors are, what is the service or product that you want to be known as as an expert, right? And position you well, benchmark you, and then we put together a strategy that will propel you because we kind of have a footprint of what's worked in the past, of what your competitors have done, where you're at standing, and what needs to be done in the future. So we have a roadmap with actionable KPIs.
So is this more of a technical task or is this more of a strategy task?
It's both because it's an ongoing task of building authority, cleaning up your technical skills in terms of like the back end, like your website, compress images, CSS, get rid of all the plugins, speed, secure, clean up the user intent, user experience, content journey mapping, keyword mapping, as well as a lot of the outside stuff, which is the asset piece, building influence. Start guest posting, start building links, start creating more engagement, shares, likes, community build. All that is a part of SEO. It's not just a one thing fit all.
Okay. Okay. Good. Well, that's awesome. There's a lot of information there for sure for someone who's looking for this. Now, that kind of covers getting fans. So if you want to bring in people into your business, you're saying that SEO is the best way to do that at the moment. Now, what about the cash flow of the business? So let's just talk about more or less in generic terms. How do you make sure that your business is bringing in more than it's paying?
Yeah, so you need to really understand how much you're charging and what's your cost of goods, right? What is your biggest cost? It's usually people, rent, and software for me because I'm in the digital space, right? But if you're a product play, then it's probably your product, raw goods, right? Maybe it is a POS, maybe it's shipping, it could be fulfillment, rent. It all depends, right? Whatever business you're in. So understanding the gap, understanding what it costs to acquire a new customer and the lifetime value of a customer. Because end of the day, maybe you're losing money at the beginning, right? But
Yeah.
that first acquiring a customer is the hardest thing. And you're okay with losing a couple $100, a couple $1,000. But at the end of the day, they're going to stay for many years. They're going to refer a lot of business. They're going to buy other products. They're going to be loyal to you for every new product SKU that you come out with. So what is the true value that they bring to the table after you have that cost, sunk cost? So understanding that, and I learned so much of that from Yellow Pages actually, because I work with thousands of these businesses.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what? That's gold right there because uh, it doesn't really matter what your business is because I mean you could have a business that has uh, you know multiple offers. Maybe you've got multiple products, so you bring in a customer and then you can sell them other things that you offer. And that's obvious that you'd think that, yeah, bringing in a customer is the hardest thing. Once you get the customer, you can make more money off the customer. But also, you mentioned something huge, which is referrals. And in my business, for example, a lot of my business is sort of like upfront, one product, and then I do have some maintenance and stuff. But really, the main thing is that upfront. However, if I do a really good job with that customer, which why am I in business if I don't? Then that customer is going to refer other people to me. And so, I think that that's really gold, understanding what it costs to get that customer in the first place, but then also understanding that they are going to continue to pay over time. So, maybe you've got to have sort of like that balancing act of like, how much is it going to cost me to get this first customer versus, so I might go in the hole at first, but then it's going to pay off over time, right?
Yeah, and I would always look at if there's a recurring business, a recurring revenue business model in any sort of business, because it gives you a lot more stability and flexibility to plan ahead, as opposed to just acquiring new customers all the time. Find a maintenance product, maintenance plan, a 3-year plan, a monthly subscription, something that allows you to have certainty in your life, in your business, allow for more stability for all your employees as well, because then they feel comfortable that they're going to be around and you're going to be around for 3 years, 5 years down the road, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. You've got to figure out something that you can offer monthly. And even if that happens to be a course of some sort, right? Just something that you can offer that people can pay regularly so that you can, yeah, like you say, you can plan accordingly. Otherwise, you've got this kind of thing going on with your business, right? Yeah. So now, what about like, let's talk about practice makes perfect. So let's talk about how to get good at what you're doing. So, when you started your business, you mentioned that you didn't really even have the skill that you knew you needed to get this done, but you were able to find the right people. But how do you find the right people if you don't even know what it is they need to be doing?
Yeah, so that's why I made a lot of mistakes. I hired wrong, I sold wrong, everything I probably did completely wrong, but I grew from it, right? So it didn't kill the business. I was maybe in negative, I was frustrated, I was stressed, but I was still battling. I was still trying to uncover and figure things out. I knew I didn't have it right. I didn't have a perfect business, right? And I still don't. I know there's still gaps. There's still processes that can be improved. People challenges, growth challenges. So my take on all that is always be learning. Always go out there, figure out what other people are doing. Don't have to replicate. Don't have to figure things out. Just kind of replicate what people have already done, like for many many years, right? And do it a little bit different. Like you can follow their footprints, follow their roadmap, right? And if you're new and you don't know if this is a business that you want to be in, go out there, volunteer for a competitor, go out there, work for a competitor, see if that's something you want to actually pursue.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good idea as well, because I mean, you can get some really good insight into what they're doing right, what they're not doing, and then you can kind of niche in
There's
and figure out
gaps.
what it is. Yeah, what it is that they're doing wrong, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. And yeah, like you said, I mean, you know, but actually, let's go back for a second. So, you're running your business, things are not going the way you like. What gave you the confidence to know that you were still on the right path, even though things are kind of not going the right way?
Well, at the beginning, I was always positive cash flow. I was always positive, right? So I knew I was spending less than I was making. I was making more than I was spending, right? So for me, it was like I had a business because I was not leading red. I didn't pay myself. I kept putting money back into the business, right? Um, but I was certain that I had something because there were people who were signing up. There
Yeah.
was a need. There was a people willing to pay you. I just had to figure out how to do the thing properly, right?
Awesome.
And so I
Yeah.
made a lot of mistakes. At the beginning, I took on a lot of wrong clients, and I was at least transparent and honest throughout the entire process. And I told people, I'm new. This is why the pricing is reflective of that. And if you're sticking with me for the next 5 years, you'll notice that I'll get better, prices will increase, and we will work together to make you become dominant player. So, just being transparent with everyone.
So you had that conversation with them up front that your prices are going to increase over time.
Yes,
And
definitely.
and what kind of reaction did you get from them?
Well, they were really interested in just wanting to be with someone that they felt they trusted. The relationship piece supersedes everything in business. And if you can form a really good bond, like not only sell, but really connect, like listen, understand the real why. There's a need in everything that people are willing to pay for, right? If you uncover that need and fill that gap for people or businesses or your customers, then you have a business.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like it's true, because I think a lot of people would be worried about telling them that, oh, my prices are going to get higher as we go along. You'd think that the customer would be unhappy about that, but on the other hand, I think you're 100% right, where they now trust you. They know that you're being transparent with what you're saying, and they're not going to get any surprises down the line, right?
And you have to be consistent, right? So they'll know if you're, BSing or something that doesn't sound authentic, right?
Yeah.
Be yourself, be real. And I've learned this from day one, right? Like I was taking a lot of sales courses and training from the Zig Ziglars and Brian Tracy and Tony
Mhm.
Robbins. At the beginning, it was just learning from the greatest and the best. So if you learn how to sell and negotiate and understand how to run a business foundationally, then you'll understand that whenever you have a business, it's all about profitability too. Like, why are you doing this? There has to be a purpose in it all. You're adding value in someone's life, right? You're solving a problem. There's a need in there. And once you do that, and then you have some business, then you can focus on other ways to scale and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And you're 100% right. I mean, if someone's willing to pay you for whatever it is that you're offering, then you have a business. Now you just got to figure out how to optimize that, right?
Yeah, and have fun. Like this whole journey of business entrepreneurship or working for someone, it's your life. You're in control. You can decide. And business ownership, entrepreneurship is definitely not for everyone.
No.
And you have to figure out if you want to go through it or not, because definitely there's struggles. Definitely there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, peaks and valleys, a lot of cash flow problems, a lot of stress. But if you endure it, it's the best growth in a human, I would say, because it will really push you to see if you're up for it or not. Because, you know, unless you buy another company, you come from money or something, I kind of like just bootstrapped everything. So I found like this is the biggest challenge in my life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I guess that being, if you've got the personality of a problem solver, then you're probably going to be a decent entrepreneur, because that's exactly what keeps happening. You keep on getting problems. But for me, and for you, I'm sure, you know, when a problem happens, I just want to, it fires me up. I want to solve it. I want to figure this thing out. Right. And with business, you know, sometimes it's not just the problem of like, oh, how do I optimize this person's website for SEO? It is a whole bunch of other relationship problems and cash flow problems and things that we've been talking about today that come in. And you just have to be the type of person that's like, yeah, I want to solve that. I'm going to figure this thing out. Right.
You have to be very decisive, and you got to just move on with whatever decision, because every day you're encompassed with hundreds of problems, like from staff to clients to everything, to run a business, to personal life, to everything, relationships. You just got to move on, right? And be okay with whatever you say and do. Just move on and live with it. And hopefully you make less mistakes than, you know, and try to solve as many problems the right way. But yeah, like grow. That's the whole thing, right? Growing mentality.
Yep. And if you're making a lot of mistakes, it just means you're learning a lot.
Exactly.
So now it's time for your guest solo. So tell me, you know, what's exciting in your business now? How can you help us, I guess?
Yeah, so right now we've been doing a lot more online, right? So for us, going on podcasts like this, amplifying how important SEO is for every single business. There is a lot of different ways to market your business. I get it. You're bombarded, you get phone calls, emails, everyone guaranteeing, promising the world. Be informed, be educated on every front. As a business owner, if you don't want to educate yourself, then hire people that will do things that you know that are in it for the right reasons. So build really strong relationships. So for me, it's all about adding value. Educate, inform. You don't have to use me. You don't have to even go SEO, but understand the impact or gap that you're missing out if you don't do SEO. Like there is abundance of opportunity if done right. And the ones that are doing it right are probably reaping a lot of the rewards.
Yeah, totally. So tell me, how do we find out more about your business?
You can check out my website. It's www.localseosearch.ca. We also own the .com. And then we also have a podcast. It's called Local SEO Today, where myself and my VP of sales, we've worked with probably over 10,000 business owners over the years. So I was at Yellow Pages, and that's where I met him actually. And he was there for over 30 plus years. So we just work with a lot of real businesses. So we understand the challenges, the problems, the ways to really not hack, but try to reduce the mistakes, I would say, so that you become more of a successful entrepreneur.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, John. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot, Tim, for having me.
Awesome. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe and comment, and we'll see you next time with the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.